Hello everyone, Michael Zela here, and I have begun a teaching on Zoe life, and this is lesson 2. If you haven't heard lesson 1, please go there because I get into a lot of the basics about what Zoe life is. And just really quick, when you're reading English translation, for instance, I have the NIV, doesn't matter, King James, you're just gonna see the word life. In other words, like Jesus says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life," or "I've come to give life and life abundantly." Well, actually, the Greek word there is Zoe, and it means life as God has it. So it's not life like we have life. It's life as God has life. Big difference. So Jesus came to restore Zoe to mankind. Back in the garden, Adam and Eve were created in his image and likeness, and he breathed into them. What did he breathe into them? Zoe. He breathed in Zoe life. Well, Adam and Eve had Zoe. What happened when they sinned? When they broke the covenant with their creator, they were cut off from Zoe, and this is why they died. Because without Zoe in our bodies, this body dies. So Jesus came to restore Zoe to mankind. Right now I have Zoe. I'm a believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And that Zoe has filled me. When you hear testimonies, everybody has a testimony. When they've come to know Jesus, and some are really dramatic, but the main point is when Zoe comes in, it really wakes a person up. I mean, you become sober-minded. All of a sudden, the sun is brighter, the blue skies are bluer. The love of God begins to fill and infiltrate our thinking and our being. So, Zoe life. So, in the Gospel of John, the Apostle John, when he wrote this, he had on his heart Zoe life because it's all over his Gospel. So we're in chapter 5, and what I'm doing is I'm reading and looking at verses. So because Jesus was doing these things on the Sabbath, the Jewish leaders began to persecute him. In his defense, Jesus said to them, "My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working." For this reason, they tried all the more to kill him. Not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. So Jesus gave them this answer: "Very truly I say to you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing. Because whatever the Father does, the Son does also. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all he does. Yes, and he will show him even greater works than these, so that you will be amazed. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them Zoe, even so the Son gives Zoe to whom he is pleased to give it. Moreover, the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him." So it says that the Father raises the dead and gives them Zoe. Now, it's almost like, well, is he saying the same thing twice? Because if you raise the dead, they're alive. Well, no, you raise the dead, yes, the body's working, but they need Zoe, life as God has it, so that they won't grow old and die. And so, even as the Father gives Zoe, so the Son gives Zoe. Very truly I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has. And we looked at this, as this is your second time, the word eternal is not a good translation. It should be age enduring. Age enduring. God is the only eternal being. He has no beginning and no end. That's eternal. Angels, humans, we're all created. We have a beginning. And so we live in ages. There's a beginning of the age and the end of the age. Beginning of the age and an end of the age. Paul talks about it. Revelation talks about ages. So that's a different teaching. So, but Jesus said, "Whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has age enduring Zoe." and will not be judged, but has crossed over from death to Zoe. Very truly I tell you, a time is coming, has now come, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. For as the Father has Zoe in himself, so he has granted the Son also to have Zoe in himself, and he has given him authority to judge, because he is the Son of Man. So, everyone who believes in Jesus. Now, that word, once again, it's an English word translation, but whoever clings to Jesus, whoever has given him their total allegiance, that's what belief. It's not just up here, it's in here, and it's in our actions. So when we believe in Jesus, whoever clings to him, who says, yes, Lord Jesus, he gives them eternal Zoe, life, age-enduring Zoe. So I have Zoe. If you're a believer, you have Zoe. Happened to me when I was 20 years old. And I'm almost 70. So I've had Zoe this whole time. Now, am my body growing old? Yes. Will the body die? Yes. But that doesn't matter, because inside me, my spirit, my soul, I have Zoe. I'm alive. And then I will get a new body that matches my spirit and soul. So, because he says, and will not be judged, whoever believes in who has sent me has eternal life and will not be judged, but has crossed over from death to Zoe. So, if you're a believer, you've already crossed over from death to Zoe. You don't even, it's like Paul said, death, where's your sting? We don't even talk about it anymore. It's interesting, the records of the early church, the first couple centuries of the early church, they didn't even say the word death. They didn't acknowledge it anymore, because they had Zoe. And they knew what death was, a separation from God. That's what death is. Now we've been joined back to the Father through the Son, and we have Zoe. And then says, time is coming when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. See, what that means is, that's interesting. Now, it could be literally the dead, or if you don't have Zoe, you're dead anyway. You know, you're already dead. You don't have Zoe. All you have is this, bios. But when you have Zoe, life as God have it, then you are fulfilling who you were intended to be as a human being, who God intended you to be. So there's going to come a time when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear, that means those who obey, will live. For as the Father has Zoe in himself, he has granted the Son also to have Zoe in himself, and he has given him authority to judge, because he's Son of Man. Okay, so do not be amazed at this, for a time is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and come out, and those who have done what is good will rise to live, and those who have done what is evil will rise to be condemned. By myself I can say nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just. And then he goes on to talk about, let's see, the Father sent me, he himself has testified concerning me. You have never heard his voice, nor seen his form, nor does his word dwell in you, for you do not believe the one he sent. You study the scriptures diligently, because you think that in them you have age-enduring Zoe. These are the very scriptures that testify about me, yet you refuse to come to me to have Zoe. So this is interesting. Now, the Pharisees and Judaism was a religious system, and Jesus said that's not going to give you Zoe. And now we can fast forward it over the centuries. Christian religion isn't going to give you Zoe. Whether you're a Catholic or a Baptist or Pentecostal, just because you have a label and you go to a certain church building, that's not what gives you Zoe. Those are just activities. You need to understand this. You know, so you have to come to Jesus. He is the one that will give you eternal or age-enduring Zoe. Okay? This is very important. This is very important. Because religion has always been the great deception. You know, there's always been religions. And religion is man-made. It's man's attempt. The ancient religions that believed in many gods, it was their imagination and demonic activity that they made up these gods and believed in them, and then they had a belief system. When it comes to the church, you know, it's not your belief system. It's whether or not you have Zoe. You know, Zoe life is an animated life. Zoe will animate you. You know, it'll you know, it's not boring and like religion is. Okay, let's look at John chapter 6, verse 26. Very truly I tell you, you are looking for me, and not because you saw the signs and wonders I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. So he fed people. He did a miracle, right? So I said, let's hang around Jesus. He'll feed us supper and lunch. She says, don't work for food that spoils. See, he's talking about bios. But for food that endures to age-enduring Zoe, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him the Father has placed his seal of approval. Once again, I'm not being redundant. This is John over and over and over again telling us what Jesus said. Jesus said that he is the one who gives Zoe. Doesn't come any other way. Can't buy it. Can't do works. Can't do anything. You have to receive it. And you receive it by clinging to Jesus. That's how you receive it. You know, when Jesus said, I am the vine and you are the branches, it's this picture of, you know, when you look at a vine and branch, you're just seeing one plant. You know, but you have the vine that comes up, you know, out of the ground. The tree comes up out of the ground. Then there are branches. But that trunk and those roots, that's the center of the tree. The branches and the leaves and stuff come out of that. So Jesus said, I am the vine. We are branches. Okay, so we are connected to him. And that Zoe flows through him to us. Okay? And it says, we'll give you. He's not holding it back. Jesus is going to hold it back. And don't say, oh, I'm not worthy, or I've done this. Or, everybody has that story. Forget it. Receive it, because Jesus came to give it. It's Zoe that sets us free and keeps us free. And Jesus says, the work of God is this, to believe in the one whom he sent. Very truly I tell you, it is not Moses who has given you bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is the bread that comes down from heaven and gives life to the world, and gives Zoe to the world. Wow, that would shake some people up. You know, I thought that Jesus only came for some people. Says the world. For God so loved what? A few of us? Some of us? No, says the world. He came to save the lost children of Adam and Eve, to restore them to the Father and give them Zoe. So Jesus has achieved the reconciliation, Romans chapter 5. That's what we preach the good news. Somebody hears it and embraces it, clings to it, and Jesus says, here's some Zoe, enjoy. And then they said, sir, always give us this bread. Here they are, you know, they're thinking he's going to feed them lunch. Jesus said, I am the bread of Zoe. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Okay? So once you and I have Zoe, you ain't hungry anymore. You ain't searching. You ain't seeking. You ain't wondering. You ain't dreaming. You ain't hoping. Yeah? Oh, yeah, you have struggles in life and all that stuff. Oh, yeah, you'll struggle with sin too. Blah, 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 blah. But you have Zoe. You know? So you'll never hunger for Zoe anymore. In fact, people don't even know what they're hungering for. It's not till that Zoe comes in, you go, oh my gosh, this is what I needed. I needed Zoe. I needed life as God has it. So, let's see. Why don't we stop there? We're in John chapter 6. And I just read where Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Okay, he's the bread of Zoe. And bread was a staple in those days. Bread, they ate bread every day. It was easy to make, and it was cheap. And people, especially, most people were poor. And very few were rich. And then, some in the middle. So bread was something that everybody ate. So when Jesus says, I am the bread of Zoe, you need bread to sustain yourself. You have to have bread to live. This is what Jesus was saying. Well, I am that bread. Not for your physical body, but Zoe, for your whole being. Zoe life. So, all right. Please tell others about this teaching, and we're going to continue in John, talking about Zoe. Blessings.